I think.
Yeah. All right. So just getting into with what you were talking about. So the first step for UW, I guess, to make the playoffs would, of course, be going undefeated, which I think that's totally plausible. I mean, this week against Utah, we both talked about how we feel that Utah isn't quite the team that they had been maybe 1 or 2 years ago when they've kind of been a very top of the mark Pac-12 team. So I think the Huskies can pull that off. And then you look at the week after, December 5th against Stanford. I think that's another game that the Huskies should win. Stanford hasn't looked that great to start the year. And then, of course, you've got the matchup with Oregon, which Oregon, I mean, they haven't looked like an unbeatable team so far throughout this year. Yeah, they're undefeated. Week 1 against Stanford, I mean, they cruised to an easy victory, 35-14, something along those lines. And then they kind of, in their game against Wazoo, I mean, they won, but Wazoo was always in it. And then you look at Oregon's game against UCLA. I mean, they won by 3 points against UCLA. That's not screaming an unbeatable team right there. They're 3-0, but they're clearly beatable, and I think that UW could beat them if UW plays a great game of football. So that would then put the Huskies undefeated. They'd be going to the Pac-12 championship against an unknown team. Let's just say USC, the likely team to be in the Pac-12 championship on that side. And USC is another one of those schools that on paper they look great. They've got all these great players, but the games they haven't really shown that. I mean, they've struggled in each of their games kind of to start each of their first 2 games against Utah. Yeah, they came through, definitely were the better team there. So maybe they're hitting their stride. Maybe they'll be dominant by the time they get to the Pac-12 championship. But as of now, I wouldn't be shocked if the Huskies beat them either. And so you're looking at an undefeated Husky team, and I'm saying they still wouldn't make the college football playoffs. I think there's about a 5% chance a Pac-12 school makes the college football playoffs.
Yeah, it's
I've
just so.
I've got no faith, mainly because of the lack of games. I mean, you look at a Pac-12 championship team having played maybe 5 games, 5-0 versus another school in the SEC or Big Ten or whatever conference, and they're playing 10 plus games. I mean, I would choose, say, a 9-2 Florida team over a 5-0 or 6-0 Pac-12 team, just off of the games you've seen them play and off of what you've actually watched. You have way more film on these other schools. So I can't in good faith say a Pac-12 school can deserve a chance in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem that comes down to, I mean, I did some more research into exactly how the college football those guys like make these decisions on their top 25 and who goes to the playoffs and whatnot. And they definitely put the most weight on strength of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're missing games, those are practically losses. Like you can't call those
Yeah.
dubs. You can't say you're 13-0 and only have played 5 games in the season. You're practically 5-8 is what that looks like when you have missed games or canceled games. Is you just don't have that test of skill or strength that week. It's really hard to make decisions based off of that. And after that is when they go on to conference championships, team record, head-to-head results, and then take into account things like injuries and weather. And I
Yeah.
think though, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say something quick. Yeah, I saw somewhere that they actually a couple of years ago really looked at like 13 teams that played 13 games versus 12 games, and that actually affected them putting them in the college football playoffs and chose like the team with more games because more tape, you see them more, you truly know them more. So that was just what I was gonna say right there. You can continue on with.
No, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Anybody can win one game.
Mhm.
I mean, take your pick of analogies. I'm not going to say one right now, but I mean, there's so many for that. But I think one thing that's really interesting when you compare the CFP top 25 to like almost any other person's like ESPN, CBS, AP, any of their top 25s is that the CFP doesn't use like computer electronic models, metrics, statistics, which could be a bonus for UW in deciding for us to get there because that means everything that's being decided is coming out of perspective and how they feel about our team, and like that human, I don't want to say error because it's not, it's that human subjectivity to it all, where they're gonna see that, well, here's where I ideally see UW at the end of this like weird season, is that we're undefeated, we've beat out Oregon, we won the Pac-12 championships. I want to hope that the CFP committee and that board who decides the top 4 to make it to playoffs is that they see like, okay, yeah, UW's gone undefeated. They did better where Oregon, who we had ranked super high earlier, they just trashed Oregon. That's great. And then they keep moving on and they keep going forward. That's where that conference championship, that team record, that head-to-head result when comparing how 2 teams did against the third. And then finally, I'm hoping they say like, okay, yes, all of that is amazing and their strength of schedule isn't too great, but with what we have, they've made a big enough point. And I think that's just what I want. That's just what I need to happen is I need UW just has to make a big enough point. Like with Oregon, with USC, with the Huskies, I'm so sorry. With all 3 of those teams, like you can't just win games. You have to destroy the other team and prove that when you come out of the season that there's not a question in anyone's mind about whether or not you could have beat XY.
Well, I mean, I think the Huskies blew that against Arizona. Then I mean, you look at it, it was 44-6 or whatever it was at one point, 44-0 maybe even, and then you look at the final score, 44-27, and let's be honest, some of these CFP committee members, they're not watching the games completely, especially like this Pac-12 game, West Coast. I think it ended at like 10 o'clock West Coast time. So if they're on the East Coast, they're probably not up there watching a Washington, Arizona game. So they're just going to check in the morning, see the box score, 44-27. They're not going to see that it was the backups in maybe. I mean, I hope they do, but I mean, you never know with the respect that these West Coast and Pac-12 schools get sometimes, how much they truly analyze their games and all that.
Yeah, it's a problem because when you read through the rule book, it actually explicitly states that the CFP committee who decides this does not have to watch every game. Like they don't have to be at the games. They don't necessarily have to watch the games either. So you could have a entire committee board with one person possibly from the Pac-12 on that board of like 12 people who's like, no, UW's done great. And then you have the other 11 people like, what do we know? We didn't watch their games. Why should we? And so that's how it's going down. I've got to hope. I mean, it's the Colorado UC Boulder's athletic director who's on the board for this year, who's from like the Pac-12, who's in this kind of bench of deciders. So I'm hoping they kind of give that little shout out to UW. Say, hey, look, the Huskies are doing all right. But CFPs suck. I don't think their system's great. I don't think we have much of a chance, if any, to make it to the playoffs this year. And I just hope we win more games this season. That's what I'm hoping for. I need those happy wins.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to win all the games. I'm not expecting